I think it is very clear that there is only one leader in this whole general election, apart from maybe Nigel Farage, that has a clear view on Brexit, and I think that is Boris Johnson. He is stuck by his guns, whereas you've got Jeremy Corbyn, who is basically dithered and dathered. First he said he was going to respect the result of the referendum. Now he's saying that there'll be a second referendum, and he won't even say which way he will campaign on that referendum. It's just ludicrous. What kind of leadership is that? And then, of course, you've got Jo Swinson, which, first of all, she's always said that she'll stick up for the 48. Fair enough, I'll give that to her. But first she said there'll be a second referendum to determine that. Then she said that they just outright revoke Article 50, which is probably the most undemocratic thing I have ever heard. And now she's back to that's a bit unpopular, I know what, we'll plump for a second referendum again. Boris Johnson is the only leader to stick to his guns. He has a clear plan, and at least you know what you're getting if you vote for him, and that is true leadership.
He's told members of the Conservative Party MPs that he'll be going for a no deal at the end of next year. He's told many Conservative MPs, and including in his manifesto, that we'll have a basic Canada-style free trade deal, we'll have no political alignment, and he said that in a manifesto and to his other Conservative MPs and the public. But in the political declaration, the deal he said he's done in 85 days, he says that we'll have comprehensive, deep regulatory cooperation. Now, what that means is alignment with the EU's regulations. Now, he's told some that will go for no deal, some that will go for basic Canada-style free trade deal, and he's told the EU that we're going to have basically regulatory alignment. He's got three completely inconsistent positions, and yet you think he has a firm view on Brexit.
He absolutely does, because, either way, he has a more firm view than any other leader. Surely you can agree with that.
Three incompatible positions is a firm view.
That is just not true, because the thing that he has openly said and campaigned for is that he wants a Canada-style trade deal where he wants no political alignment. He wants, we all support, as Conservatives, we all support the idea of a trading bloc, and that's what the EU was sold to us for.
In his political declaration, it says he'll have comprehensive, deep regulatory cooperation. Yeah. He also said a couple of years ago, I'd like to stay in the single market. I'm in favour of the single market. I think we have to trade freely with our European friends and partners. He's somebody who knows that we need to be in the single market.
He is someone that takes compromise. He understands what, Brexiteers want. He is a Brexiteer himself. He's a leader of these people. So obviously I am a supporter of the Conservative Party and Brexit. And I think it's very easy to look on Twitter or kind of look online in general, social media, and think that every single young person is voting for Jeremy Corbyn. I can absolutely tell you that is not the case. One of the problems with Twitter and things like that is there becomes kind of shaming of anyone that says that they're going to vote for Boris Johnson. And I've had so many people that have messaged me, etc., and said the reason that I will not say that come out as voting for Conservative is I'm too scared of the backlash. That is completely a horrible place for democracy to be in. And I think we will see that a lot more young people than people are expecting will come out and support Boris, because people are bored of Brexit. They want to get it done and move on to other issues that they find important. And the quickest way to do that is to vote for Boris Johnson.
In terms of staying in the EU, in 2016, 73% of 18 to 24-year-olds voted Remain.
Yeah.
In the age group of 25 to 34, it was 62%. In the age group just above that, it was 52%. Young people overall. In fact, the under 65 population of the UK voted Remain. And they will be the ones who will actually have to literally work in the economy that Brexit creates. So and they voted specifically against it.
Are you arguing that if there's another referendum, only young people should be allowed to vote?
My point is, are young people in favour of this? And the question, are young people in favour of Brexit? And the answer is simply no. They are not behind Brexit at all.
Some are. And I think that we will see that more people than the referendum originally said are now. Because you know what? Young people actually believe in democracy. And just because they are a minority, it does not mean that they should be, pushed out of the argument. A young person that wants Brexit is just as legitimate as an old person that wants to remain. So it's I think one vote, one adult.
Yeah, but the question is, are young people, is the generation that will be most affected by Brexit in favour of Brexit? And the answer is categorically no.
I think this election is the election to get Brexit done so we can move on to other things. I don't think Brexit should be the only thing talked about, because obviously if Boris Johnson wins, that will be done in January. You know, we can get the other ball rolling and then we can get on to other things. So I think it's a very dangerous path to go down to say that this is just a Brexit election. And I don't think it should be, but inevitably a lot of the debate surrounds Brexit.
To be honest, I don't think this is so much of a Brexit election. I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say that none of the manifestos matter other than Brexit. Because if Boris Johnson wins, I mean, just ask yourself the question, how much stuff has been done on the NHS, housing, police, climate change, regional inequality, education in the past 3 years? Nothing.
Which is why we need to get Brexit done, so we can get on to that.
So and given that was just to negotiate a 12-month transition period, and now Boris Johnson is talking about negotiating our permanent trade deal with the EU, and they've already budgeted for about 19,000 civil servants to deal with that. Those civil servants those salaries could have gone to doctors, nurses, teachers, and will continue devoting vast swathes of our resources to Brexit, or to negotiating with the EU and Donald Trump at the same time over the next 7 to 10 years. So literally none of the stuff that he's promising, none of the stuff that he's saying he'll do, work on the NHS, housing, education, that will still be on the back burner for the next 5 years. So to pretend that anything other than Brexit matters in this election is simply short-sighted, because nothing else will get done if Brexit actually happens. Personally, I think the most democratic way forward is to put Boris Johnson's deal to the people. That's what I think is the most democratic way forward. Against staying in the EU.
You are joking. If there was ever to be a referendum, which I'm against anyway because we live in a representative democracy, surely leave is one regardless. And if you want to decide, what sort of leave people have voted for, then surely the fairest way in that sense would be to have leave with Boris Johnson's deal, leave with a Labour deal, you know, remaining in the customs union, etc., or leave with no deal. If not, what are you so scared of?
Are all Brexit voters in favour of Boris Johnson's deal?
No, so let the Brexit deal
So you have not got a majority. That means the majority is against Boris Johnson's deal. So
I think the majority are for it.
If we were to have a referendum on leave options, you're basically saying let's find out what the majority of 52% want. That's going to be a smaller fraction than 48%, logically.
But that, of course it is. But the 52% are the ones that won.
Yeah.
So that's already done. That argument's done.
On a referendum question,
remain or leave is done.
On a referendum question that was so vague that even the winners don't agree amongst themselves. Nigel Farage says that this is not Brexit. Boris Johnson says this is a great Brexit.
Yeah,
they want incompatible things.
That's just So if you're saying that they want incompatible things, then surely by default you would support a referendum which has different leave options. Why should Remain be on there? It's all that argument's over. Leave one. We saw how much division that the first referendum inevitably caused. To have a second one would just make that worse. And then, of course, you've got the problem with whether we did vote to Remain, which I don't think would be the case. Then how is it fair that we've got one apiece almost? Then do you go into a third one, best of three? It just makes no sense. We've had a referendum. Every single politician said that result would be respected, whatever the result was. So to then Remain is every single politician lying to us, and at the end of the day, a majority won, and you know that result should be respected and implemented by January 2020.
So I offered to pay for your meal, and then when the bill comes, it turns out it's £39 billion, and then you say to me, well, you already decided that you're going to pay for my meal. Pay up. That is what has happened with Brexit. It has fundamentally changed. If we look at it the way a referendum should happen, in Northern Ireland with the Good Friday Agreement, they sent a copy of the Good Friday Agreement text to every single voter in Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. They got to see the deal first, and then they voted. We signed blind. Brexit was 4 words in 2016. Leave the European Union. Right now, it's a 600-page treaty which results in Northern Ireland being bound by the rules of the EU, but having no say at all after people voted to take back control, and they would have literally less control. That is fundamentally not what people voted for in 2016. It's had so much more added to it. The only democratic way to approve that deal is by giving people a direct choice on that deal, where in order for that deal to go through, the majority would need to vote for it. That cannot be achieved with a general election. It can only be achieved with a referendum.
But you said that this general election is a Brexit basically a Brexit election.
Yeah, to give us the chance to have a referendum.
it's just absolutely ridiculous that you can't kind of understand. You keep talking about this majority, and the one thing that we do have a majority for is leave, whatever form that is in. So surely this election, and also, of course, we've got Labour who said that they would respect the result. So what's happened to that? They've just completely changed their mind. So how do we know they're going to respect the next one, or what's?
Labour's 2017 manifesto says Labour accepts the result of the referendum and will put the national interest first. It also says that the benefits of the single market and customs union are essential to jobs and the economy, and Labour will always put jobs in the economy first. We will reject a no deal as a viable option.
Why are working class people now voting for Tories?
Which means that if there was a Brexit on the table that didn't keep the benefits of the single market, Labour's manifesto obliges it to stop that Brexit. So Labour is entirely consistent with its manifesto pledges.
The one thing that I will say, just to end this point, is that a second referendum will just mean more delay, more division, and it won't solve anything. So, you know, the best way forward for this is to implement the biggest mandate that we've ever had in British political history and then move on to the bigger issues.